lounging, son.
Right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and back with me again is the one and only Jim Mahfood, here to talk comics. Got a new book coming out, and we already were kind of getting into some stuff before I hit the record button. So welcome back, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, we already had a whole
chat.
So good night.
Yeah.
No, it's good to see you, man. And yeah, we were talking about comics being and being into the comics and the industry being just like focusing on the positive aspect as opposed to drama and digging up dirt on people.
Yeah,
it's been part of my life professionally for about 25 years now, and eventually I've basically met almost most professionals in the industry: editors, writers, artists, promoters, retailers. I've met most people, and most people are cool. Like, most of the interactions are positive. So I choose to keep it that way, and I choose to approach like my projects that way, and I've been working on this new series, this new Girl Scouts. It's called Stone Ghost, and it's been about 4 years since the last series, Magic Socks. Still going through Image with this one, and my mentality with like making new comics is always like, let's just have it be fun. There's no political platform or agenda or anything with it. It's just the way I approach it. It's pure escapist entertainment. Like, I like entertainment that's takes you out of everyday dread and anxiety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, the new series is literally like, I'm even putting it in like outer space and introducing this brand new Girl Scout character named Dio and a new cast of supporting characters, and expanding on the actual history of the Girl Scouts and where this organization of like badass female warriors comes from. So kind of laying the groundwork for future stuff that I'm going to do in future comics of Girl Scouts, of revealing like, oh, this isn't just the 3 girls that you knew from previous series. This is actually a thing that dates back to like feudal Japan, with these badass women through history that are basically dealing weed, but also going on a bigger, more psychedelic experience, and that's kind of like the root of what all this is about. So
yeah, the book was, you sent me the PDF for number 1. It was dope. I fucking dug it, dude. It was really awesome. The color, that's like the finished first issue, right? So that's exactly, dude, from the color scheme that you have from the beginning, then you have in the back, I love you also did the notebook pages, like the legal pad. That was really cool too.
Thank you. We're doing, in each issue, that yellow notebook effect, I'm doing flashbacks for Dio, the main character, in each issue to build her character and let the audience know like why she's going on a specific mission in the first issue. And she's kind of a heartbroken type character. She's lost someone close to her. So she's going on a mission, and then throughout the 6-issue series, the mission she thinks she's on is actually, there's something much bigger at play going on here. So she finds out she's directly rooted into the mythology and ancestry of the Girl Scouts. So it becomes her sort of accepting her role in this, while all this crazy shit's going on around her with comedy, sci-fi, psychedelic stuff, violence, crazy supporting cast. But I wanted to root her, the main character, in more of a I guess grounded is the word, but she's more I'm trying to develop her as thoroughly as I can, and these flashback sequences are one of the key things to that, to find out like what's going on with her.
Yeah, it's like you said, like your comics, every time I pick up a book by you, it's just pure enjoyment. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of already know what I'm gonna get, not story wise, but I know that I'm gonna have a fucking fun crazy ass ride every time I pick up one of your books, and this one is no different. I mean, I definitely already with that first issue, it's kind of elevated to like some of my favorite of your work.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm relieved to hear you say that, man. When you create alone in a vacuum, and especially during like 2020 and even currently, at the end of the day, you spend all this time on these projects, and then you kind of look at it and you try and remove yourself from it as being the creator, and you try and, or I do anyway, and I try and like look at it as an observer and just be like, is this good? Like, is this even like, have I made a huge mistake here? Or, so I do have really close friends that are also doing comics and stuff that I am sending them stuff just to make sure like I'm not completely off the rails with this, or, this is going in the wrong direction. So I do have people I bounce things off of, but the type of creative path I've chosen with comics, especially with this new series where I'm writing, drawing, lettering, and coloring the whole thing, is like, okay, this is so your vision that if this is off at any point, like this could be not a great recipe here. So there's a certain level of, I guess, confidence, but also like, I want to almost say fearlessness, but it's almost like stupidity of just like, just go for it, man. Fuck it. Like, go with your gut, go with your instinct. I've always worked very instinctually anyway. So as soon as I kind of have my ideas, I just start making it, So I'm glad you dug the first issue. It's cool because like I can confidently say it ramps up with each issue, and I get more comfortable with each issue. So it's funny to see the evolution of it, because with freelance work and everything else, it's taken me over 2 years to make this series. And so there's time in between issues, obviously. And it's funny to see like the progression of where it's at. Like I just finished issue 5, and I think issue 5 might be the best issue so far, but then there's still 6. So it's kind of like, you have to think of it as a whole piece, obviously, but then it's also like each issue is like a creative experience in itself. So it's interesting, man. It's making comics is really challenging.
I mean,
as you and your viewers probably know, it's like, it's not a walk in the park, man. Even though it's super fun and I'm jazzed to wake up every day and draw my own comics, create my own characters, craft my own universe and stories, it's still like it's an incredible amount of work.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I can't draw, and I haven't really put any, I'll be honest, I have not put the effort that I should put if I wanted to write a story and find an artist to draw for me. But I mean, just even talking comics with people, like I have a full-time job, right? And then I do this for fun. But even this is a lot of work, just doing a podcast and a YouTube channel. So you guys, like by yourself creating something, especially you, like you said, you're doing every aspect of this book, and all of it to me is great. I love your lettering. You know what I mean? Like I can tell when it's hand lettered, it's completely different. And it's like, it's your font. It's like, if the font had a name, it would say Mahfood, like in my mind, like that's what the font would be called.
Yeah.
And I love that you create your own stuff. And that's why I do the channel, is because I appreciate what you and other comic book creators do on a daily basis to bring something to me that is such an important part of my life,
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the font thing, because like I actually tried to create a font of my lettering, and when you type it out, it just looks too sterile. And the joy of like hand lettering on the actual board is you get this spontaneity with the letters to where it doesn't necessarily look consistent, but that adds to my style. That adds to my comics, I think. And the people that I've gotten feedback from, and then hearing you say it, it's like, it actually, I think, adds even more to the character of, when you open this cover of this book, you're off on a different kind of comics experience. Like, this isn't your monthly Marvel or DC book. This isn't even like most indie books right now. This is its own, I'm trying to craft my own thing of like, my comics are a different experience.
Yeah.
And if you're a comic book lover, if you want something different than the regular weekly stuff on the shelves, this is definitely for you. And it all just adds to what I'm trying to craft is like a full-blown experience that I had as a kid when I first discovered super unique things like the original black and white Ninja Turtles at Mirage Studios,
right?
Cerebus, you know, the Tick when it first debuted, like just knowing like this is basically like one guy or one or two guys crafting this whole thing, from story to art to lettering to designing the book to like the letters page, responding to readers, like all that shit was super important to me as a kid, as a reader. And that is kind of like the vibe I'm trying to go through with my book, even including like, you know, the new series, that it will have a letters page. I want to print fan art like I did in the Magic Sock series. I want to interact with people. I want to show little previews of like coming next issue type stuff, you know? So that being said, I do work with my friend Carmen Acosta. I got to give her a shout out because she does design the book and put everything together for me. And my homegirl Trisha at Image Comics is also doing production on it. So between Carmen, Trisha, Image, having them as like my backup band, my support, I can then be the charismatic, sweaty, like James Brown type figure up front, laying the funk, but there's no finished product, dude. You have to have Bootsy Collins on bass. You got to have Maceo on saxophone or whatever. So like I have my team, obviously, so I do need to shout them out, but and they're always like, yeah, we know you want your weird shit. We know what to do, kind of thing, you know? So
yeah.
Carmen has designed like almost all of my print publications from the last, I guess, 10 years or so. And she just knows the aesthetic of what needs to happen with my work. So, and Image is cool enough, man, like Eric Stevenson and all them are cool enough to, when they approve my projects, they just step out of the way. They're like, just turn it in, weirdo, when it's done, and we'll publish it, you know? So I kind of have, after being around for so long, I mean, that's the advantage of kind of establishing I guess a brand for yourself, is people sort of know what you're going to do, and they either are into it and allow you to do that, or I don't work with those people, you know? So yeah. It's pretty like black or white with me of where my work goes, who puts it out, who distributes it, how does it get into the hands of the people that dig it, you know? And with social media too, man, I mean, I just have this direct link, obviously, with fans, and I try and answer like every DM on Instagram or every message. It gets tricky, but it is crazy to have like, and I'm the same way. I have DM'd creators that I appreciate and they hit me back, and you just it's crazy to have this direct link now with people where, like, when we were kids, I'm sure you relate, it's like there was no, you could write into your favorite comic book, but you might not even know if they got the letter or how to reach these people. It all seemed so like mysterious to me and almost unachievable.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we live in this world where it's like you can just post an image of your book and everyone sees it literally that day. So it's pretty amazing.
It's a trip for sure.
I
mean, I just think about like every time I talk to creators that have been around for a while, you know, like Wizard Magazine, right? Like I talked to somebody the other day, like that's how I got introduced to stuff. I was talking to Tom Palmer Jr. from Palmer's Picks.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because I reached out to him, I'm like, I really want to chat with you. And he's like, okay, let's do a pre-interview. And I was like, or he called it something. I was like, what the fuck is that? And he's like, just so we can like meet each other first. So it's not awkward when we just meet each other. I was like, oh, fuck, I've never thought to do that before. I've always just like, I'll talk for a second before, introduce myself, and then I'll hit the record button, and I kind of work it out that way. But, I just think it's where the industry has come from. And you can DM anybody. I mean, I don't always get responses, but like people ask me sometimes like, oh, how did you get the interview? I'm like, I don't know, message them. You know what I mean? Like, It was as simple as that, and sometimes people respond, sometimes they don't. But I do think it's like, there's pros and cons, obviously, to like the way that the industry is now. Like you talked about negativity and stuff and drama, right? Like Twitter is such a clusterfuck of that, right? Like that's why with mine especially, like I only want to talk about shit I like. I'm not gonna talk about something I don't like. One of my friends was like, well, why don't you review a book even if you don't like it? I'm like, well, because I don't really want to sit there and talk about something I didn't like. If I didn't like it, then that's my, like that's for me to not like. I don't want to shit on something that somebody loves. You know what I mean? It is cool in the sense that how open people are, and you've always been super like responsive.
I mean, I definitely like your approach of keeping it positive and not. I also don't discuss things I don't like on social media, and my platform is just like one of celebrating art, comics, music, culture, and creating the sense of like, hey, we all dig this stuff together, right? Like instead of, because there's so much shit in the world of people being separated, like that seems to be like so ingrained in the zeitgeist of modern life, of all the ways we're different. And it sounds like, I'm not trying to be like hippie with this shit, but it's like, if we just focus more on the things that brought us together, things that are fun, things that are interesting. I mean, that's one of the things that I mean, I am doing some conventions this year, but the convention vibe to me was always like, this is a community of people that are just into this cool shit together. And it was always, for me, generally like a really positive, fun experience. And being able to interact with people one-on-one, face-to-face, as opposed to just a comment on a digital interface on your phone in the form of social media. Positive comments are great, but there's nothing like having a real human standing in front of you saying to your face, like, man, I dig your work. Like, I'm inspired by what you do. Like that counts for so much of actually having that human interaction. And then me at the end of the day, wanting to go back to my studio and be like, cool, people are digging what I'm doing. I want to make more for them. I want to make more stuff to put out there. So, but I think the approach, I guess my point was the approach of like keeping it in the positive zone of like, this is a community, and that message and that vibe matters. It's, I don't know, man. It's just, for me, like trolls and people that make stuff shitting on things, and that's their presentation to the world, that to me is an odd thing. Because if I don't like something, I'm like, it's not for me, I don't dig it. And then in 1 second, I move on to something else, and I move on to like, I don't like that book, so I'm going to check out the book I do like. I don't like that movie, I'm going to spend time digging the movies that I like. So for me, it's always been a very easy solution, but I guess people do make careers out of critiquing things and shitting on stuff. It's weird, right? It's
very odd, and it's just not something like, dude, my time is precious, you know what I mean? Like I don't have a lot of it, besides I have my work, and then I do this, and I have family time. Why am I gonna spend like this? I've told so many people, why am I gonna spend time like either consuming some sort of content that I don't like so I can bash it, or creating content of bashing something and then also spending time editing that content of me bashing it? Like it just, to me, I'd rather just read shit I like. You know what I mean? That's like, that's one of the things about the Kayfabe Ringside Seats group, like on Facebook, dude. I've never seen in all my years of comic books a group that's that positive all the time.
Yeah.
They only talk about shit they like. And if they don't like something that you like, they're not bashing you for it, you know?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of that group. And, you know, Eli that moderates it with like Rocco Jerome and a bunch of other guys. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe I like. And that's why I've really fed off of that group. And like, I try to showcase a lot of those guys, you know what I mean? Like I do my indie creator spotlights on, like I have those interviews, and then I got the interviews with you know, somebody that's more established in the industry.
Definitely. Know? Yeah. Shout out to Eli, by the way. He's an example of someone that, like, he approached me a long time ago when he was much younger, just kind of as a fan. And then through bonding through comics, music, everything, it's like we've become buddies. And I feel like everything he's doing to celebrate the culture is in a super positive direction, you know, and like that community sense of like, come on in and like dig the stuff that we're all digging. Like this is cool shit, and we should spread the word about this kind of stuff, you know. And kayfabe, I mean, obviously I love those guys, Jim, Ed, and Tom, and I think them starting this YouTube channel was the most brilliant thing they could have done, and cleverly disguising it as like, we're just gonna review Wizard to start, and then it morphing into like what it's morphed into, and now like basically daily content.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
It's a brilliant approach to like pure celebration of the artistry of the comics culture, man. Yeah. And you know, it's awesome. It's good to know that attitude, that feeling is still out there, because it taps into the feeling I had as a teenager when I'd go to the comic shop with just my couple buddies that were into this, and we had to keep it secret from people in the 80s of that you were a teenager and still collected comics. Like it just wasn't part of culture, you know what I mean? And so it was like, in one way it was kind of cool because it was like our secret bonding thing, but on the downside, you couldn't talk about it like at school or something in front of other people. It was like, meet me behind the building after school. I got the new Tales of TMNT issue that just came out or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like almost this shady thing of like, you don't dare want like girls to know that you're 15 and still reading comics or something, or I don't know. And now it's like, now it's like the most mainstream shit ever, you know. It's
a trip to think about too for me. Like sometimes I think about like, man, when I was in high school too, I didn't fucking tell people I read comics, and it's not even that I consciously was like, oh, I can't let them know, I don't want them to think I'm a nerd or a geek or whatever. Yeah, I didn't have any friends that really read comics except my buddy Dylan, who now does like we do weekly reads and graphic novel reads, you know. Like nice. He's the only person that I had, only friend in high school, and we still talk, you know. And like, so that's why every time we get together every week. Well, right now we're on hiatus because he just had a baby, but just I love talking comics with him. And people tell me all the time, they're like, man, you guys have such chemistry. I'm like, we've known each other for a substantial amount of our life, you know. Yeah. And we've been having these conversations since we were in fucking junior year, sophomore year of high school. I'm going off topic, but the positivity thing I think is in the community. I'm so on board with what you're saying with that, and I think that the kayfabe channel was a huge inspiration to me to like kind of like get up and just do the YouTube channel, do the podcast, because this is more, to me, this is more fun. It's more natural in terms of having conversation, you know, and being able to spotlight stuff that I like. And it's a fun time for right now for comics, at least for me, you know what I mean? Like, I know there's some people that aren't having fun. Like they complain and they bitch about whatever they're bitching about, but this is the most exciting or most excitement I've had for the medium, I think, in years, you know. And it's all these like dope indie creators that are fucking doing dope shit. Like you were a part of the Image Grand Design book. That project was insanity, dude. Like, that book was so dope. Yeah. You know, that easily could have been it is on the shelf. It was on the shelf at our shop, but it easily could have been published by Image.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. I'm hoping that the founding fathers, the main partners, I'm assuming they saw it, or some of them have seen it.
Rob did.
Okay, cool.
Rob dug it. He mentioned it. So
okay, oh good. Okay, so yeah, it again, I mean, that's just it's just a huge celebration of this particular era that, you know, everyone can kind of relate to if they were buying comics at that time. It was such an exciting thing. And it's also fun to be able to like have a new generation or new group of artists come in and put their twist on that stuff and add a little comedy, and like not making fun of in a mean way, but kind of like poking a stick a little bit. You know, I mean, the ad that I did for it was definitely kind of making fun, but in like a loving way. Like, I don't feel like if I ran into any of those guys, they would be upset at me. It's comedy, you know.
Yeah, no,
it made Ed and Jim laugh on the kayfabe, so that's kind of all I cared about, was when they were reviewing it and laughing out loud. I was like, my work is done here. You know, like I'm good. So, but yeah, that's another thing of like creating these communities and having something super positive come out of it. Like, now people are actually sitting and writing and drawing, physically manifesting new comics out of this community and out of this love for something that's brought everyone together, and putting that out into the world. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of a crazy, like, cyclical thing of like, this just started out as a YouTube show, and then there's a fan base, and now the fan base is making and physically manifesting a new product out of it that you can hold in your hands and like read on the couch at night.
Yeah,
that's amazing, man. Like, that's really cool, you know.
Yeah, it's really dope. I wanted to ask you, like, you kind of talk about, like, you even talk about 90s comics in the first issue of the new Girl Scouts book. When does this particular series, is this in the future? And are we going to see more of that kind of 90s? I don't know the word I'm trying to think of, but are you going to kind of elaborate more on those characters?
Yes, and the series it takes place currently.
Okay.
It's just off.
It's just in space.
It's just off Earth. It's off.
Okay.
It's out in space somewhere. I don't specify where, but yeah. In the first issue, Gordy, my little octopus character, introduces this 90s comic to Dio as a gift, and the reason that happens is the comic winds up becoming this connecting thread through the series. So there's callbacks to it, and there's a specific reason it's in there. But I just, you know, I wanted to throw that in there for my own amusement, but also to let readers know, like, okay, somehow 90s image type comics exist in outer space in this universe. So wherever they're at in space, they also have some of the shit that we have on Earth in pop culture terms. So there's this 90s comic floating around that our characters have. So it, I don't want to say too much more about it because I don't want to spoil things, but it, but I will say this too, I am also doing like little backup stories, comics in the new Girl Scouts, that those comics take place in different eras. So there's like an 80s comic that is literally black and white, and it's like black and white era type of comic, black and white explosion looking comic. There's one that takes place in the 70s that's like a 70s exploitation, like Spain Rodriguez underground comics with an X at the end of comics type thing. So the series is my new Girl Scouts story, but I'm also paying homage to different genres of comics and kind of playing with the gag of like, oh, and the backup stories are told and done in the style of different eras of comics. And even like I mentioned, man, having like a letters page in the book and whatnot. I mean, I'm just kind of referencing, I hope it's not too inside, but I'm kind of referencing like the feeling I had just going to the shop every week and buying monthly comics and having the experience, reading the letters column, hearing the voice of the creators and just kind of becoming enveloped in the whole world. And that adds to the escapist entertainment for me and makes it more fun and makes it hopefully more enticing for the reader, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I miss letters pages. It's rare now when you get it. I mean, I know there are some books. There's a few image books that do it. Like obviously Eric Larson has never gotten rid of his in Savage Dragon. Excellence is a book that I really love. Brandon Thomas and Kari Randolph. They have a letters pages.
Yeah.
But I really dig getting that content and seeing the questions that maybe like I didn't even know I wanted to know the answer to, and then the creator responds to that. Like that was always something that I found interesting. I'm like, oh fuck, I never would have thought to ask that question. And they ask it, and then I get to see that, you know, and you kind of get into the head of the creator more based on how they're responding. And then you like fan art is really dope. That's what Ed Piskor's been doing it with Red Room. I thought that was a really cool touch that he did. Have you gotten fan art already, like ready to go for the first couple issues, since you said you're already?
I do. I don't know if I'm going to include it in the first issue, but yeah, I've had a couple people send me stuff through Instagram, which is awesome. The first letters column, I'm still putting it together, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with that. But basically, after the first issue drops in late November, I'm going to encourage everyone to be like, I want to see people drawing these characters, you know, and even getting like variant covers, which has been super exciting because I get to see super badass artists that are my contemporaries, friends of mine, doing their version of the characters. So for people that don't know, we have Peach Momoko doing the variant for issue 1. It's it's a retailer exclusive variant, like a 1 in 25. And the same with issue 2, we have Jim Rugg from Cartoonist Kayfabe. And then with issue 3, we open the variants to, they're not retailer exclusive anymore. It's just open-ended.
Cool.
And I don't want to announce the rest of the artists because I want to keep it a surprise. But for 3 through 6, we also have like badass people coming on board. But yeah, Peach and Jim just knocked it out of the park with their covers, and it just adds to the excitement of the project for me. And also too, I mean, from a collecting point of view, when you do, this is a whole other conversation, but it's like when you do retailer exclusive variants, you're basically consciously creating collector's items. And so that becomes a whole other thing too, where that has changed a lot, man, since 4 years ago when I did the last series. And I know you knowing about the retailer end of things, like the whole variant cover game now. I mean, we could do a whole show just on that, a whole discussion, but it's changed so dramatically that I had to kind of be schooled on how to approach it and what's going on with it. And I got Ed Piskor's advice on it. And I talked directly to Eric Stevenson, the main publisher at Image, about it. And it's a whole other industry now.
It's crazy.
So it's a bit overwhelming, but I mean, I think the way I'm approaching it, where I'm doing these exclusives, but it's just for the first 2 issues, I don't feel like it's I don't think it's too like sinister what we're doing or anything like that.
I mean, you're only doing one cover, you know, or you're only doing one variant. And I mean, I've often said, like, why am I going to do this? Like, why am I going to buy multiple covers? And then, you know, all those Red Room covers fucking came out and I couldn't help myself, especially Jim Rugg's covers. I needed each and every one of those covers. When he dropped the image, I went to work and I was like, Nick, just fucking make sure you keep me in mind. I'm already claiming one of them for all of them because he did such an amazing job. And I
had to do the same thing, man. Like as soon as I saw the first issue, what was like the recreation of 8-Ball, I was like, shit, I gotta have that.
Yeah, and then Love and Rockets, and then he does TMNT, and then Spawn. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this dude he's such a chameleon. Like he emulates each one of those artists like so well.
Yeah. I've always thought Jim was completely underrated. Even I picked up the first issue of Street Angel when it hit shelves, the very first one from Slave Labor. And I was flipping through it and I was like, this is like the best looking art in a slave labor book I think I've ever seen in the history of the company. I mean, Evan Dorkin, Jonah Vasquez aside, it's like, this dude is fully formed. And I had no idea who he was, never saw his name, but I was like, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. Yeah. Shit, it's amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait till he announces whatever project that he's got in the works. I've been impatiently waiting. I keep like reaching out. I'm like, let's do another chat. He's like, well, let's wait till my book is announced. I'm like, all right. And like,
yeah.
And I waited a couple months, and I was like, any news? Like, no, still no news yet, but I'll let you know. I was like, all right, that's fine.
People are going to be stoked when they find out. I just found out recently, and I was like, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
I can't wait.
This is, by the way, we're talking about Jim so much. This is his variant for issue 2. Just, dude, so we traded originals. This is not an original. This is a printout, but this is just ballpoint pen. The whole thing on like literally a piece of notebook paper is what the original art is. So did the logo by hand, little butterfly cocoon in the image logo there. So, and since I'm showing stuff, that's Peach's gorgeous variant for issue 1. Absolutely stunning.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's fucking amazing, dude.
And there's the standard issue 1 cover with Dio and Gordy. And my buddy Adam Dumper from Arizona, a good homie of mine, designed the logo for this series. So I sent him this little fang, a couple different fang icons to choose from, and he put all this together. And that's my thing with each Girl Scout series. I always do like a different masthead, a different like logo to separate the books. But it's just exciting, man, to have this kind of stuff come in and show people the book, send artists previews like I sent you, and then have them respond to whatever they want to do is my thing. Like, I don't really need to see sketches, like just do your thing. Because when I do stuff for people, I don't really want to show sketches. I just want to be left alone to like do my thing and be me. You know, to me, it's like you're hiring me to be me. You know, I have a unique look.
Yeah.
The more freedom you get, the better piece you're going to get from me is like my idea about it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like if I'm asking you for a commission, I'm just telling you, just do what you do. You know, it's kind of like if I get a tattoo from somebody, I give them the rough kind of like idea, just do what you want to do. And I trust you. You're the artist. I'm not, you know, anything I'm going to come up with is not going to be even close to what is going to come out from me. But yeah, I think the variant game, like it's a weird fucking thing, but maybe calling it a necessary evil is not the right way to call it, but it kind of like, it is within the ecosystem of comic books. It has become so just part of it, right? Like these 1 in 5s, 1 in 10s, 1 in 25s, there was a 1 in 1,000 for fucking Berserker, you know, like the fucking Keanu Reeves one. So
was it drenched in Keanu's actual sweat?
No, it was signed by him, and I think if you spent a little more, you could get it graded.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's crazy, you know, but like I think there's a happy medium of it where like don't like oversaturate with the variants, you know, like especially if it's not open order. I think Ed is like, he's got like the happy medium. He does 1 in 5s, 1 in 10s, 1 in 15s. So it's not like a tremendous amount, which means that the price usually isn't going to be super extravagant unless like speculators, you know, have their way with specific covers. And then that's just out of everybody's control.
Yeah.
One more thing about the book, and then I wanted to ask a couple other questions that aren't related to the book.
Sure.
So you said that you have been creating this over the past couple of years. So was issue 1 created prior to COVID?
Yeah, which is weird. I don't know I think I might know what you're about to say, because when I reread issue 1 now, some of the things Dio is saying about feeling numb and all this stuff, it's what people sound like now in a post-COVID world. And I don't want to say that like the book is not a bummer, the book is not sad, but I don't know if that's what you were leading into, but after like rereading it constantly to make sure everything was okay, the spelling was right with everything, whatever. As soon as people started, like COVID fully was in full effect last year, I started thinking like, man, this almost feels like it was written now. And I wrote it in like 2018 and started drawing it midway through 2018, and then had all these interruptions with other work and travel. And but I kind of interrupted you. I didn't know if that was what you were.
No, I mean, it kind of part of it, but I wanted to know if like, did the story kind of change also, like you just said, because like the way issue 1 kind of felt as we entered into COVID, like if issue 1 was before, when's the COVID issue, I guess, I don't know how else to say it. When was the first issue you did during like lockdown and quarantine?
Issue 2, basically halfway through issue 2.
Okay.
The shit kind of hit the fan because I got back from Japan and Singapore at the end of 2019 in mid-December. And I was so pumped from that trip and the inspiration of seeing all the manga and everything I saw in Japan and Singapore. But Japan was a game changer for me. I started drawing issue 2 right away, and issue 2 visually like just starts off with like a crazy bang, and it's this kind of whole other thing. And then March, is when COVID hit. So I was still working on issue 2, but that being said, like the lockdown and everything, it didn't affect really the story of the new series because I had already written and planned it out. Like I always know like the beginning, middle, and end of a 6-issue series, if that's what I'm doing. And then filling in the little details and stuff in that is part of the fun. But I always have the big picture down, and then it's more like putting the puzzle pieces together of like, okay, how do I break down each issue? What goes in each issue? What is the cliffhanger? But I do go in right away knowing beginning, middle, and end for sure. But yeah, it was something that there's a tone there of almost not real world, but there is something with some of the things Dio says throughout the 6 issues where I'm like, oh, it kind of sounds like someone who's alive in America right now. Like, oh shit, I didn't plan that, but art imitates life. I don't know.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, and like I said, it isn't, she's kind of like the first heartbroken character I've ever written, but it isn't a sad story.
Yeah, it doesn't feel sad by any means.
And the comedy and violence and insanity is coming from the characters she teams up with and the situations around her. And the reader is kind of seeing it all through her eyes of being like the new kid, So
yeah, I love, like I said, the first issue was dope. I mean, the end, I wasn't expecting. I won't spoil it, but I definitely was not expecting that ending that you gave. And I loved Gordy. That character is really cool as well. Since you're almost wrapped up with issue 5 though, and you only have 1 issue left, do you already know what you're doing next?
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to say right now.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But yeah, I have like the next stuff planned. So it's kind of exciting to wrap things up, and also it's always weird ending a project. Like I have the last issue to draw, it's written, but it's kind of like you go through this journey and then it goes out into the world, and once it's out and published, like it's a weird thing to say, but I sort of don't look at things that much anymore after it's out and published. Like my previous works, it's like, well, my time with it was at the drawing table. and laboring on the pages, scanning them, coloring them, working with the designer. But then once it hits print, man, it's so weird because it doesn't feel like it's really my thing anymore. It's now in the world, and I separate from it. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever it's going to do now in the world and however people are going to react, I don't have a say in that. So, but that's why you always move on to the next thing then. Like you always, for me, it's like I always keep creating and doing other things, just to stay in that zone of this is what I'm doing now. This is what's important right now. But it's a strange thing to make something and then you don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know how people are going to react. I just have to do what I think is cool. And I mentioned showing it to a couple friends, and I feel like if any of those people said to me, this is terrible, or you're way off track here, or that would affect things. But so far so good. And hearing your response to it has been great. And I did an interview with the sci-fi network, and the guy interviewing me was like, so I read this first issue and it's not like any other comic on the shelves today. And he's like, and I mean that in a good way. And as soon as he said that, I was relieved, because he started saying it and I was like, oh shit, did I make a huge mistake? Like, what have I done? But he's like, no, I mean that in a positive way. Like, this is something totally different and like just a breath of fresh air as far as comic stuff go. Like, this ain't your new issue of Robin or Justice League or whatever. He's like, you're on your own shit, man. He's like, that's what we have come to appreciate from you. So
yeah, dude, I mean, that's why I get so excited every time there's a new book by you, because I know that I'm going to get something different, completely different than everything else that is coming out, or the majority of stuff that's coming. I don't want to say everything else. But I'm super, I mean, I think that I don't remember when the announcement dropped, but I know I must have either emailed you pretty quick. And I was like, I want to talk to you about the new book,
Definitely.
And I usually won't read PDFs, but I wanted to have some sort of thought about the book before I talk to you, like, 'cause I'm all about having the book in my hands and in print,
Oh, for sure. No, but I want people that are willing to talk to me to see it and know what they're getting into. And one of the new things too, man, that's changed in 4 years is Image, as part of the PR and marketing. Like, they wanted a PDF of the first full issue to send out to retailers and just to like show everybody what this is going to be. And we didn't do that with the last series. So that was kind of a thing where they were like, we're sending this out to retailers to let them know what they'll be getting into. And we think that this is something different and unique, and we want people to see it. So to me, that was cool, because that hadn't happened before. So just in like less than 4 years time, man, like the industry is working differently now. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but like Diamond is different now. Like Marvel and DC don't work with Diamond. Like, it's a different landscape, man. And just like 3.5, 4 years of when I did Magic Socks. So I've been having to learn things with doing the new series,
Yeah, I mean, you also have things like Kickstarter that have really blown up over the past, I would say over the past couple years. I've noticed that it's really blown up with a lot of like established creators now doing stuff through there first, and then maybe bringing it over to, like, let's say Image, like Scott Snyder did his Noctera. I think it's issue 1. You have the script on one page, and then you have the black and white pencils on the other. So it's technically the first issue, but it's it's an exclusive thing to Kickstarter. I know you've done stuff with Kickstarter in the past. Is that something that you would ever think about doing again, or do you think you'll just only stick with Image?
Yeah, I think Kickstarter is awesome. I support lots of comic Kickstarters, and we had huge success. My friend Rawson and I did my pop-up book through Kickstarter like 2 years ago, and it went really well. And making something different and unique like a pop-up book, I think is perfect for the format of crowdfunding. And Kickstarter really got behind it. They chose it as one of their picks of the week or something, like the week we launched, and that really helped spread the word. And we got fully funded in less than like 2 days, which was huge. So yeah, I have specific projects in mind that that I think would lend themselves to that format really well. You know, even if it's a comic or a graphic novel, it's like, yeah, but I want it to have a slight twist so that it's something that you might not associate with me doing it through image. Maybe it's like an all adult type comic or something completely different and bugged out. And that's kind of, I think, where crowdfunding shines, where you really get the niche audience of people that are like, I'm willing to follow this crazy dude into something completely different. You know, like those are the campaigns that I like to support. And I feel like going back to Jim, like with Octobriana, that was a perfect thing for Kickstarter. And it's like, it's a comic, sure, but what's the twist? Oh, it's the world's first blacklight comic. Like that's really what makes it sing as a crowdfunding item, you know. So that's just, I think the future of that, man, is huge, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it enables so many people where they're like, oh, I can never get a comic book made. Now, yeah, you can. You know what I mean? There's really no reason to like, I mean, even for me, like I procrastinate. I mean, I can't draw, so I'd have to find somebody, but like, there's really nothing holding me or anybody else back from creating something, you know, from nothing. You don't need to have the money. You throw it out, put it out in the world, kind of, you know, like obviously you have to have images and stuff to show. You can't just like have an idea and throw it out there. You have to run a good campaign, but I think it's become easier now more than ever for somebody to create a comic book. And I think that, yeah, it's really cool. And I'm definitely excited to see what kind of crazy shit that you'll do through Kickstarter in the future. What about your One Dangerous Donut?
Yes.
Are you gonna do another one of those?
Yeah, I have an issue 2 plan. I'm still waiting to kind of sell through issue 1, basically. But that, for those that don't know, that was an oversized 11x17 newsprint art magazine comic thing that I self-published in the when was that? I got those at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
Because Peach Momoko's husband, Yo, knows a printer in Japan that printed those for me on that fantastic newsprint. Yeah. And so that was the only thing, is that, you know, getting those shipped from Japan and everything, it's like all that, those prices all kind of add up. But it's available on my website, jimmahfood.com, if anyone wants one. And yeah, I definitely want to make more of those, just because the format is just so cool looking. You know, it's like 11x17, man, on
newsprint. It's awesome.
Not shitty newsprint. It was like, it has like its own unique feel to it. It's magic Japanese newsprint is what I'm trying to say. It's magical.
Yeah. And then you've been a staple in cons. You were talking about cons earlier, about the community and stuff and going to conventions. You haven't been for a while, right? I mean, with this whole pandemic.
I actually did my first show a couple weeks ago.
Oh, you did? Okay.
It was a small show. It was Lexington, Kentucky, the LexCon, and it's a show I would do almost every year because my good buddy Justin Stewart lives out there, and he helps coordinate the Artist Alley. And Justin also lettered and colored the Girl Scouts Magic Socks series, so a bunch of other stuff of mine in the past. Like, we're good friends, so it was basically an excuse for me to go out, hang out with him for a week. And we did the show. We went into it real sheepishly and cautiously, and it was mandatory mask, and it actually went really well, man. Like, I didn't feel like it was a risky situation or anything. I mean, I wasn't like shaking people's hands or anything, but we had that interaction of people going up to the table, and it was done in a curated and careful way,
Okay.
so that I felt comfortable being there. And I'm actually, man, I'm going to New York in a couple weeks. I'm doing New York Comic Con. I'm fully going for it. My view is like, for me, it's kind of like, it's time to get back out there in a careful and cautious way. Obviously, like, I'm vaccinated, the mask thing, obviously, I'm not some crazy COVID denier. It's nothing like that, man. It's just, for me, it's like, I think there's a happy medium between being absolutely terrified and staying at home and never going out, and being reckless and crazy and not believing in any of it. I'm trying to do a happy medium and kind of get certain things back into my life. And because, dude, it's crazy, man, to work on a project for like 2.5 years and then not go out and promote it.
Yeah.
I've always done that in my career. And so with New York, it's like Image has got like interviews and stuff lined up for me, and things that I want to do to promote the work that I'm proud of. And I know they're doing mandatory mask, mandatory vax card, I believe, to get in. And I have friends that are going, and man, we're just kind of saying fuck it and going for it. And I'm you're gonna be like, what the hell? I'm also doing Designer Con in LA in November. And
I didn't know about that one. Okay.
that is November. I have the date. It is the 12th through the 15th. And that's out in that's out by Disney.
Okay.
And that's an awesome convention, man, that I haven't been to in a couple years. But that's basically, it's a pop culture show that celebrates comics, art, illustration, custom toys, prints, apparel. And I'm setting up at that one with my buddy Ross from Proposition Press, who does my pop-up books. And I basically talked to all the coordinators and close friends in LA, because LA's been real cautious with, I feel like, with most of the COVID stuff. And all of them are just kind of like, hey man, we're going for it. We're doing the show. It's mask, it's vax card. And I just feel like, I don't know what your view is, man, but my view, Ryan, is I don't know if anyone really has the answers with any of this shit.
I feel the same way.
And
they take a shot in the dark. That's all they're doing.
Views are just like,
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like my gut instinct is saying it's okay to go for it and just proceed with caution. And that being said, don't be offended if I don't shake your hand if you come up to me at a show. Not you specifically.
Yeah.
Fans watching, like, because in Kentucky we had a couple gung-ho people that were just like ready to come across the table and like hug and stuff, and
you're like, oh, back up, bud.
I'm like, we can just talk and we don't have to touch each other.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel kind of the same way, you know what I mean? Like, just be cautious, like, I'm ready to go to a fucking convention. I have been itching as a fan to just get back out there and just like go up and down Artist Alley, talk to the creators I like, discover new people. I didn't know about Designer Con, but I definitely think I'm going to go to that. I didn't realize it was, I mean, I think I've heard of Designer Con, but I didn't know comic books was a factor there. But yeah, I think that nobody knows anything about this. It's all, to me, it's all guesswork, like you can just be smart.
It affects everyone different, man. And I think everyone has these different views on things, but I don't know, man. Conventions were always just such a huge part of my career, and also my social life and community. Like, I have all these friends that I've known and built up and that I love seeing every year. This has been going on for like 25 years of my life, basically. And to have that just completely come to an end, it just felt like something's missing, So I think slow and steady getting back into it is the way to go. It's not like I'm going nuts and doing like back-to-back weekends or anything like that. So, but I am ending this year like by doing a couple shows and just seeing how it goes.
Are you doing LA Comic Con or?
I'm not,
Okay.
but I am doing Emerald City in December.
Okay.
That's
I've never been there.
that's supposed to be happening. That's Seattle. That's a killer show. So man, I mean, that's one convention in October, November, and December. That to me is like, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's a good starting point.
Yeah.
And just to see where like all this goes. And doing a small show like Kentucky was my test run. And the other thing is my buddy Justin and I, like, we weren't partying at night either. We did the con and then we would leave and go just get dinner and then go back to his place, hang out on the back porch of his spot and like smoke weed and look at artist editions. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's a good night.
Look at comics, look at artist editions, talk comics, and just enjoy each other's company. Like, we're old friends, but it wasn't like we were going to bars and hang out with groups of people and drinking and acting like idiots. I think that that's probably where you could get in trouble with stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that just have to walk the line, be smart about it. I think that some people are itching so bad to get back out into the world that they're not really being as smart as they should be. I don't care. I'll wear a fucking mask. A mask does not bother me by any means. If anything, it's going to prevent me from catching a cold too. So I don't really care. Like, it doesn't bother me. Just put your fucking mask on.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me either. I don't really see that as like a big deal, but
yeah, some people do. I mean, it's crazy. Like, we've had people in the restaurant I work at put up like signs like masks aren't real. You don't need them. Like, she just slapped it. It's like little like paper. Like, then just don't eat here, dude. Like, you don't have to eat at the restaurant if it's that big of a deal.
Dude, I'll tell you this much too, man. The advantage of the mask at Comic-Cons, it's kind of self-explanatory. Like, you don't get those strange odors in certain aisles. When you're walking down the public restrooms, you don't know because you're wearing a mask. So to me, the mask at the con is kind of like a win-win situation.
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't matter. It's fine, and probably prevents the legendary con crud that there's always people that get sick at every convention, even pre-COVID. So, if you have something that can prevent that, I think it's a positive thing. It's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, for sure. So besides the cons, like you got coming up, which I'm very stoked to hear that you're going back, and I definitely will try to hit up DesignerCon. Anything else that you got in the works that you can kind of talk
about? I've been doing this really cool thing on Sunday called Skull Funk and Draw, and it's a live stream hour-long show of me drawing. People can tune in at Schraub Home Video, and it's Rob Schraub, the guy who created the Scud comic book. He does an all Sunday event of different shows, and he's got something called Found Crap, where him and his buddies show footage of old terrible like B movies, old weird 70s and 80s TV commercials and stuff. But my show starts the whole thing off at 3:00 Pacific Standard Time, and it's me curating a soundtrack, like a music score of just cool music, and people hang out in the chat room, and we basically just draw for an hour and kick it. And it's been fun, man. So Schraub Home Video on Instagram and SchraubHomeVideo.com for the details on that. That's mostly every Sunday when I'm not traveling. And then, as we've mentioned, Girl Scouts Stone Ghost this first issue is available for pre-order right now through your local comic shop. Pre-order cutoff, I believe, is November 1st, and the book will drop on November 24th is what it's scheduled for. So, and I know I was at the shop yesterday, and the brand new Diamond Previews just came out yesterday, and that has issue 2 in it. So people can also pre-order issue 2 as well. And the whole reason for the pre-order, if people don't know, is like, it just guarantees that you get the book when it comes out. And it also helps me and the book because it amps up those numbers, those orders. So it just makes the project move that much more smoothly if we can get those pre-orders in and get the hype building about the book, man, and the excitement. It just makes it that much more enticing to kind of put out as a project.
Oh yeah, dude. Well,
thank you for letting me hype it up here. And a bunch of people online and on Instagram, on social media have hit me up to let me know they've pre-ordered through their comic shop. And I greatly appreciate that and thank them for doing that. It makes a difference. It helps.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like I said, I love all your work. The minute books are announced, the minute I can add it to my polls, because we have like the online system, the minute I can add it, I always add it. And I can't wait to see it in print. I loved it reading it on digital, but I can't wait to have that book in my hands, get those variant covers because those look really fucking sick. And yeah, dude, thank you again for taking time to chat with me, man. I always love talking comics with you.
Definitely, Ryan. Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me, and we'll chat again soon.
Yeah.